My wife was being blackmailed by a man I hadn't seen in 12 years because of something I did. If someone told me a single envelope would blow up my entire marriage, I wouldn't have believed them. But that's exactly what happened. I'm Jason, 36, IT guy, painfully average in most ways. I've been married to Rachel for 8 years. She's sharp, organized, always 2 steps ahead of everyone. Especially me. We've got a dog, a mortgage, and a pretty normal life in Ohio. Nothing fancy, nothing scandalous, or so I thought. Because everything I believed about my wife and about our marriage started to unravel on a completely ordinary Saturday morning. Rachel had gone out to get coffee, like she always does on weekends. I was doing what I usually do, cleaning up the kitchen, pretending to be useful. That's when I saw it. A stack of unopened mail on the counter. Most of it was junk, flyers, coupons, a bill or two. But one envelope caught my eye. No branding, no logo. Just our names printed neatly in the corner. I almost didn't open it, but I did. Inside was a bank statement. A savings account at a bank I didn't recognize. My name was on it. Rachel's too. Joint account. Balance. $43,728.91. My first reaction? Confusion. We didn't have an account at this bank. At least I didn't. The last transaction? Just 2 weeks ago. A cash withdrawal for $2,500. I stood there holding the paper like it was radioactive. Because here's the thing, I should have known about this. We have a shared budget. We talk about money. We use spreadsheets. For crying out loud. So why had she never mentioned it? Later that night I asked her, casually, like I just stumbled across it. Her face went pale. She blinked. Then she said, "Oh, that's just an old account. I haven't used it in years." But I had the statement in my hand that morning. Fresh transactions. Recent balance. She was lying. I didn't press her right then. I just nodded, acted cool. But inside, everything shifted. I didn't know what that money was for, or why she'd been hiding it. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't imagining it. This was the beginning of something much bigger and much uglier than I ever expected. I barely slept that night. Rachel was asleep next to me, breathing steady, like nothing was wrong. But my brain was running a mile a minute. Full-on late-night detective mode. Like I was trying to solve a murder I didn't even know happened. I kept thinking, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it really is an old account. Maybe there's some boring explanation and I'm just spiraling for no reason. But the way she lied, not hesitated, lied. That's what kept hitting me. And the next morning, she acted totally normal. Made coffee. Played with the dog. Even asked if I wanted to go to the farmer's market. Like she hadn't looked me dead in the eye the night before and fed me a line of total BS. So I did what any guy who watches too many crime documentaries would do. I started digging. First thing I did was check our credit reports. We'd pulled them together before we bought the house a few years back. But I'd never done it solo. This time, I was looking for any accounts she opened that I didn't know about. And yeah, there it was. Opened 3 years ago. First Horizon Bank. Joint account. But the weird part? My name was only attached on paper. I'd never signed anything, never logged into it, never even got a welcome letter. It looked like she'd used some of my info to open it, social, address, all correct. But not a single transaction had my fingerprint on it. It was all her. And the deposits? They were random. Not from her paycheck. No pattern. Just occasional chunks, $1,000 here, $1,800 there. Sometimes months apart. Cash deposits. Not direct transfers. Felt sneaky. Then I checked our shared savings account. And that's when I noticed something I'd somehow missed before. A few oddly specific transfers. Like $3,000 disappearing last November. Then reappearing somewhere else. No explanation. She called it credit card consolidation at the time. I didn't ask questions. Now I wished I had. That afternoon, I opened her laptop while she was outside walking the dog. We don't have secrets when it comes to tech, or we didn't. We used the same family password for most things. Her browser history. Clean. Like too clean. No social media logins, no banking sites, not even Amazon. That's not normal for her. Then I remembered. She always used a different email for personal stuff. Not her work email. Not our shared Gmail. One she made when we were dating years ago. And guess what? She was still using it. I guessed the password on the third try, her old dog's name and a birth year. Classic Rachel. And there it was. Receipts. Venmo screenshots. Even a picture of the First Horizon debit card I didn't know existed. She was hiding things from me. But why? That's when I found something that really made my stomach drop. A receipt from a hotel. Not local. Not even in our state. Vegas. 2 nights. Room service. Paid in cash. Dated 6 months ago. And I had a crystal clear memory of that weekend. She told me she was going to a human resources conference in Chicago. I'd even dropped her off at the airport. You ever go looking for answers, then halfway through wish you hadn't? That was me. Sitting on the couch, laptop open, heart in my throat, scrolling through a digital paper trail that made me feel like I didn't know the person I married. I was deep into Rachel's old email now. The one she didn't think I remembered. Every few clicks gave me something worse than the last. But nothing hit harder than her Venmo history. I remembered she switched to a private profile a while back. Said it was because she didn't like people seeing what she spent money on. Fair enough. But when I opened it from her email, whole different story. There were dozens of transactions over the last year. Some small, some big. All of them sent to the same username. @t.r.coach. Descriptions were vague, cryptic. Stuff like Session 3. Follow-up. Final piece of the puzzle. A couple had nothing but emojis, a brain, a $sign, a crown. It looked like she was paying for coaching. Life coaching, business coaching, I wasn't sure yet. But there was a pattern. Every time she sent him money, a few days later, there was a cash withdrawal from that secret savings account. And this guy? He wasn't just a life coach. That would have been too easy. I reverse searched the username and found a half-baked website, Travis Reese, Personal Growth Architect. He had one of those motivational speaker headshots where he's leaning against a brick wall in a blazer and jeans. The guy had no credentials. Just a bunch of vague quotes about unlocking potential and reprogramming the mind for abundance. But get this, his office was in a strip mall 2 towns over. Right between a vape shop and a nail salon. Real high-end operation. And then I found a folder in Rachel's email titled TR Sessions. She'd been emailing herself notes after every meeting with this guy. Stuff like, he says I need to stop holding guilt for Jason's mistake. I'm finally learning how to protect myself emotionally and financially. He warned me not to be manipulated by people who use loyalty as a weapon. I didn't know whether to be angry or worried. Who the hell was this guy? What did she tell him about me? And what mistake was she talking about? I started wondering if this was about something deeper. Something from our past. Something I forgot or buried. Then I found a final note. Just a few lines, no context. Sent to herself 3 weeks ago. He says it's time to stop paying. If he contacts Jason, it'll undo everything. I'm not ready for that. I don't think he understands what's at stake. Wait, what? Who's he in this sentence? Travis? Or someone else? And what exactly was she paying him for? I sat back on the couch, laptop still glowing in the dark. Outside, Rachel was pulling into the driveway. The dog barked once. I closed the laptop and put on a fake smile. Inside, I was unraveling. Something was happening. And Rachel wasn't just hiding money anymore. She was hiding me from something. I told myself I wasn't going to dig deeper that night. I really did. But if you've ever been in a situation where your gut's screaming and your brain's trying to play it cool, you know how that goes. Curiosity doesn't knock. Kicks the door down and starts rummaging through drawers. So after Rachel went to bed, I stayed up. Quiet, lights off, laptop screen dim to barely there. I pulled up the hotel receipt from Vegas again. It was from a place called the Palmetto. Definitely not the budget kind of hotel you book for a work trip. This place had a rooftop pool and $18 mimosas. What stuck out, though, was the room charge breakdown. There were 2 guests listed. 1 king bed, 2 breakfasts, a $190 charge to the room from the bar for 2 cocktails, 1 neat bourbon, and a bottle of Prosecco. And the check-in? Done in person. Not online. Not through her work email. And not by her. Guest 1? Rachel M. Guest 2? Guest TR. I felt sick. TR Travis Reese. The sketchy coach from 2 towns over. The guy she was sending money to. The guy who supposedly helped her protect herself financially. He wasn't some distant mentor. He was in that hotel room with her. I dug into the hotel's reward system, created a fake account just to see if I could backdoor some info. Took a while, but I finally found a public guest review tied to a profile photo. It was him. Same guy from the website. Same smirking expression like he's got the secret to the universe. Except now I knew what the real secret was. Rachel didn't go to Vegas for work. She went for him. That hit me harder than I expected. Even with everything I'd found so far, part of me wanted to believe this wasn't an affair. That it was just money or lies or maybe some kind of misguided therapy thing. But this was a whole different betrayal. And the worst part? That trip was 6 months ago. Since then, she'd come home, made dinner, kissed me goodnight, laughed at stupid shows with me on the couch. Like nothing happened. Like we hadn't happened. And now another voice started whispering in my head. If she was sleeping with him, if she was paying him, if she was hiding this much, what the hell else was going on? That's when I remembered something. The night before she left for that conference, she got a call. I'd asked who it was, and she said it was her boss. But when I walked by the room, I heard her say, "No, he has no idea. Trust me, he doesn't ask questions." Back then, I didn't think much of it. Now, that line was echoing in my head like a warning bell. I needed to find out just how far this went. And I had one idea where to start. The local address listed for Travis's business license? It wasn't just an office. It was a private mailbox. So now I knew the guy's name. I knew his face. I knew he'd been in a hotel room with my wife. What I didn't know yet was what kind of man hides behind a fake title and a mailbox in a strip mall. So I decided to find out. I told Rachel I had a client meeting that morning. She didn't ask questions. That stung a little more than it should have. I think part of her knew I was starting to wake up, but she wasn't sure how much I knew. Yet, I drove out to the address listed on his little Travis Reese coaching and personal growth site. It looked exactly like I expected: sad, cracked sidewalk, a vape shop on one side, a nail place blasting top 40 on the other. The business address was just a rented mailbox center with rows of silver boxes and one sweaty guy behind the counter who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I asked him if Travis Reese had a real office there. He barely looked up from his phone and just said, "Nope, mailbox only. He picks stuff up every few weeks. You can leave something if you want." I thanked him and walked back to the car, but I didn't leave. I parked down the street, grabbed a gas station coffee, and waited. I didn't really have a plan. I just needed to see this guy in real life. Needed to know if he looked like someone who ruins marriages for a living. 2 hours later, he showed up. I recognized him immediately. Leather jacket, slicked back hair, sunglasses that screamed midlife crisis. Walked in with that weird fake confidence some guys wear like cologne. I waited until he came back out. And yeah, I followed him. Not far, just a few blocks. He pulled into a dusty little strip office complex on the edge of town, parked, and went into a door marked Suite 9, Performance Mindset Coaching. I parked and waited, heart pounding, palms sweaty. This felt reckless, I'm not gonna lie. But I needed something. Closure. Confrontation. Answers. I walked in like I had an appointment. The waiting area was empty. Bare walls. One inspirational poster with a quote that said, "Your past doesn't define you unless you let it." I stood there, trying not to puke, until a woman, maybe early 20s, clipboard, headset, poked her head out from the back and said, "Can I help you?" I didn't even think. I just said, "Yeah. I'm Jason. I'm a client referral. Looking to speak to Travis." She narrowed her eyes, then said, "He's in a session. I can take your info, eh?" Then he came out. Travis Reese. Live in the flesh. And he froze when he saw me. Not confusion. Not surprise. Recognition. He knew exactly who I was. He tried to play it off, "Hey, man, sorry, kinda booked up today. You want to set something up for later?" I said nothing. Just stared at him. And after a long pause, I said, "Tell me how long you've been screwing my wife." The receptionist's face went white. Travis looked around like he was suddenly aware of just how small the room was. He chuckled nervously and said, "Hey, man. You're clearly upset. This isn't the place." I took a step forward. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't making a scene. I just said, "I know about Vegas. I know about the money. I know everything." That's when the mask cracked. Just for a second. A little twitch in the jaw, like he was calculating how much I really knew and what he could still deny. But I saw it. I saw guilt. Before he could say anything else, I pulled a folded copy of the hotel receipt from my jacket. Handed it to him. He looked down at it. Then back at me. And in the quietest, most smug voice I've ever heard, he said, "You're not mad at me. You're mad at her." I walked out before I did something I'd regret. But as I sat in my car, shaking with adrenaline, I realized something. He was right. I was mad at her. But not just because she cheated. Because she trusted him with her secrets. And whatever they were. He wasn't the only one who knew them. You ever feel like your whole life is a puzzle and someone else has been hiding the pieces? That's where I was, sitting in my car outside this fake coaching office, gripping the steering wheel like it owed me answers. After the run-in with Travis, I went home. Said nothing to Rachel. Ate dinner. Watched Netflix. Nodded when she laughed. Tried not to picture her in a hotel room with him. I didn't sleep. Again. But I started thinking about something she said a few months ago, offhand, casual, over brunch. She was complaining about how cluttered the garage was and said I might just grab a little storage unit for the overflow. You know, stuff we don't use. At the time, I didn't think twice. But now? That felt like a breadcrumb. So the next morning, while she was at work, I started digging. Checked our shared email accounts. Nothing. But I remembered that she signed up for all our wedding vendors using a throwaway Gmail. I tried logging into that one and boom. Still active. And right there in the inbox? A receipt. Metrolock storage. 5x10 unit. Paid in full for 6 months. Rented 8 months ago. Right around the time those odd transfers started showing up in our accounts. So I went. Pulled up to the place around lunchtime. The guy at the front desk asked for ID. I told him I was Rachel's husband and we shared the unit, which technically wasn't a lie. It was under her name, but I spotted my name listed as a secondary contact in the account profile. He handed me the code. Unit 114. Way in the back. My hands were shaking as I unlocked the door. I wasn't sure what I expected. Hidden love notes? A bag of burner phones? A shrine to Travis? But what I found was way more ordinary. And somehow that made it worse. Old clothes. A few sealed boxes marked donate. A stack of framed pictures wrapped in newspaper. Then one medium-sized black duffel bag. Unzipped. Inside, papers. Folders. Legal stuff. Some receipts. And a small, plain brown envelope with my name on it. Written in Rachel's handwriting. I stared at it for a solid minute before opening it. Inside? One folded sheet of paper. Typed. It read, "Jason, if you're reading this, I guess you found the unit. I was never going to tell you everything. Not because I don't love you, but because I know what it'll do to you. This isn't about an affair. It's about what you did. And what I had to do to protect both of us. I read it 5 times. What I did. What the hell did I do? And why did she think keeping secrets would somehow protect me? I dug through the rest of the duffel looking for anything that made that note make sense. And I found something. A printout of an email thread. Between Rachel and a guy I hadn't thought about in over a decade. Evan Carr. We went to college together. I hadn't seen him in over 12 years. Last I heard, he moved out west and got into finance or crypto or some other pyramid-sounding hustle. The subject line? What happens if he finds out? I hadn't thought about Evan Carr in years. He was one of those guys you meet in college who's just too much. Always the center of attention, always running some scheme. He was charming until he wasn't. Had a habit of crossing lines and acting like the rules didn't apply to him. We were roommates for about a year. Then there was this thing, a night that went sideways, big time, and after that we drifted apart. Honestly, I was glad. I put that whole part of my life in a mental box, taped it shut, and moved on. Until now. Because now, I'm holding a printed-out email thread between my wife and this guy. The same guy who knew me back when I was at my absolute worst. Young, stupid, full of ego, and making decisions I still regret. I scanned the emails. They weren't just catching up. They were negotiating. Evan's first message was from almost a year ago. Short. Cold. Subject, haven't forgotten. You think he's changed? You think I don't still have proof? If he wants this to stay buried, it's gonna cost you. I'm done being quiet. That was it. No signature. Just that. The next few were from Rachel, pleading with him to stop. Offering money. Telling him Jason doesn't need this thrown in his face again. Saying she was trying to protect me. And then came the message that punched me right in the gut. From Rachel. I've sent the first transfer. I'll send more when I can. But if you ever try to contact him directly, this whole deal's off. He can't know what happened. Not after everything we've built. So now I knew two things for sure. Rachel had been sending Evan money. Not just Travis. And this wasn't about her cheating. This was about something I did. Something Rachel's been covering up for me. So I did what any broken, confused, half-desperate guy would do. I logged into Facebook. Typed in Evan's name. There he was, older, scruffier, same cocky grin in his profile pic. He had a few public posts, mostly nonsense motivational quotes and weird crypto stuff. But buried in the comments of a post from 2 months ago was something that made my stomach turn. Some random guy had commented, "You still sitting on that college video? Could've made bank if you went viral with it back then, LOL." And Evan replied, "Still have it. Still worth something. Just waiting for the right time." College video? My mind went racing. There were a couple nights that blurred together from those years, dumb parties, reckless stares. But there was one night in particular I really didn't want to remember. And the more I tried not to think about it, the clearer it became. That video wasn't just some prank. If Evan still had it and if Rachel had seen it, then everything she'd done, the secret account, the hush money, the lies, was because she knew exactly what I stood to lose if that video ever saw the light of day. And that's when I realized something even worse. If Evan still had the video, he probably still had a copy. And if he decided he wanted more money, Rachel wouldn't be the one paying next time. I would. I didn't want to remember that night. But memory's funny like that. The harder you try to forget, the louder it gets. And once that Facebook comment cracked open the box, it all came rushing back like a freight train. Senior year. Spring. We just finished finals. Everyone was blowing off steam, house parties, booze, bad decisions. You know how it goes. Evan had this old camcorder he carried around like he was making a documentary on frat life. Most of the time it was harmless, dumb stunts, beer chugs, people doing karaoke half-naked. But that night, it went too far. There was a girl. Her name was Lexi. She wasn't part of our group, just someone who tagged along with a friend. Pretty quiet. Arts major, I think. I barely knew her. She was drinking, but not in a party way, in a this is how I cope kind of way. At some point, she passed out on the couch, and instead of helping, Evan thought it'd be hilarious to stage a prank. He grabbed a marker. Started drawing on her face, writing dumb stuff on her arms. I remember telling him to stop. I remember laughing a little too. And yeah, I didn't stop him. Not really. Not enough. Then he pulled out the camera and told me to pose next to her, like I was passed out too. He said, "Act like you're hooking up. It'll be hilarious." I didn't touch her. But I posed. I leaned in like a jackass, smiling for the camera, trying to be the cool guy. Then he panned over her, zoomed in, made some gross joke I won't even repeat now. I remember feeling sick the second he hit stop. But I never said anything. Neither did she. The next day, Evan showed the video to a few people at brunch. I was mortified. I told him to delete it. He laughed and said, "Relax. It's not like you did anything. You were just playing along." He said he deleted it. Swore he did. But I guess he didn't. And now, over a decade later, that video, that dumb, awful, drunken moment, is being used as leverage. Against me. Against Rachel. And honestly, I deserve it. I never hurt Lexi. Not physically. But I also didn't protect her. I stood by. I participated even if I didn't understand the weight of it then. But Rachel did. Somehow she found out. Maybe Evan sent her a copy. Maybe she dug it up herself. But she knew. That's what the money was for. She wasn't hiding an affair. She was shielding me. From public shame. From career fallout. From being branded a creep on the internet, maybe worse. She was protecting a man who didn't fully deserve it. And that made the guilt worse. Because she was paying for my past. Literally. And maybe emotionally too. I knew I had to talk to her. After finding the video, reading the emails, digging through our mess like some amateur PI, the secrets were out. But none of it mattered if I didn't look her in the eye and say the one thing I'd been avoiding since this whole thing started. I know. So that night, after dinner, after dishes, after the dog had passed out at our feet like nothing was wrong, I paused the TV and said, "We need to talk." She didn't flinch. Didn't pretend to be surprised. She just muted the remote, folded her hands, and looked at me. Quiet. Like she'd been waiting. I started with the easy stuff, the bank account, the hotel, the storage unit. I watched her face the whole time, hoping for some flicker of guilt or denial. But she just sat there. Calm. Like someone hearing her own diagnosis out loud for the first time. Then I said it. I found the email from Evan. That was the first crack. Her jaw tightened. Eyes flicked down just for a second. I kept going. And the video. I know what's on it. I remember that night. I remember everything. Still no tears. No yelling. Just a slow exhale like she'd been holding her breath for a year. Finally, she spoke. I wasn't going to tell you. Ever. That stung more than I expected. Why? I asked. Why hide it from me? She looked at me and her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. Because you've spent your whole life trying to forget who you used to be. And I didn't want to be the reason it all came back. I didn't know what to say to that. She stood up, started pacing, not angry, more like she was working something out in her head. When Evan first messaged me, I thought he was bluffing. Then he sent me a clip. 30 seconds. Just enough to scare me. Just enough to know he'd kept it. She turned to me. Do you have any idea what would happen if that video went public? Not just to you, to us. Your job, our family, your reputation. Do you think I wanted to pay him? She said. I hated it. Every single time. I felt sick wiring that money. But I did it. Because I thought I was protecting you. I sat there, swallowing a cocktail of shame and gratitude and something I couldn't quite name. Maybe loss. Then I asked the question I'd been holding back. And what about Travis? Was he blackmailed too? Or something else? Her face dropped. This was different. This wasn't calculated. This was pain. Travis was escape, she said. I didn't sleep with him. But I let him think I might. I wanted someone to talk to who didn't look at me like I was lying. Who didn't make me feel like I was part of the problem. I didn't know whether to believe her. But part of me did. She sat back down next to me. Not touching. Just close enough. You want to leave? She asked, voice flat. I won't stop you. I'm tired of carrying this alone. I stared at the blank TV screen. Thought about the life we built. The mess we were both neck deep in. And finally said, I'm not going anywhere. But we're done keeping secrets. She nodded. And for the first time in months, maybe years, we were on the same page. It had been 3 days since Rachel and I laid it all out. 3 days of awkward silences, weirdly polite conversations, and this cautious peace. Not exactly healing, but maybe something that could turn into it. Eventually, we weren't okay. But we weren't lying anymore. And honestly, that felt like progress. We agreed we'd go to a lawyer. Start figuring out how to deal with Evan legally. See if there was a way to shut this down without making things worse. I even floated the idea of just coming clean. Telling the truth before he could weaponize it. Rachel didn't love that idea. But she didn't shoot it down either. So yeah, we were trying. And of course, that's when Evan emailed me directly. No warning. No subject line. Just a single sentence in the body of the message. If you want this to stay buried, you're going to help me get a job at your company. I stared at it for a long time like it might change if I blinked hard enough. He wasn't asking for money anymore. He wanted in. Now, I work in IT at a decent-sized company, not huge, not Google, but respectable. Evan wasn't qualified for anything we do. And even if he was, recommending him would be like bringing a grenade into the building and pulling the pin myself. But he knew that. He didn't want a job. He wanted leverage. So I replied. Not happening. You try anything, we go public. And we have the paper trail to prove you've been blackmailing my wife. A minute later, another email. Cute. I wonder if your boss would enjoy the video as much as I did. Should I send it to HR? Maybe your clients too. This guy wasn't just trying to squeeze us. He was trying to destroy me. I showed the email to Rachel. Her face went pale. He's escalating, she whispered. We talked for hours that night. About lawyers. Police. Peer fallout. We even talked about what it would look like if I just quit my job now, got ahead of it. Took the hit and started over somewhere new. But something about that felt wrong. Like letting him win. That's when Rachel said something that hit different. We're not the only ones with something to lose. I looked at her. What do you mean? She walked to the desk, pulled out the folder from the storage unit. The one with all the printouts. Evan doesn't know how much I actually saved. She held up a sheet. I have receipts. I have transfers. Emails. Every message he sent. This isn't just blackmail, it's a case. She handed me a second file. Inside were screenshots. Social media profiles. A list of every person Evan had scammed, grifted, or threatened in the past 10 years. She'd been building a file. Quietly. Meticulously. I've been scared of him for a long time, she said. But I'm done being scared. And that's when we made a decision. If Evan wanted a war, we were going to give him one. You ever sit in a lawyer's office and realize your life has officially become a mess with a case number? That was me. Tuesday morning. Sitting across from Dan Miller, a friend from high school who'd become exactly the kind of guy you want in your corner during a legal crisis. Divorce attorney turned general fixer. Sharp suit. No BS, smelled faintly of expensive coffee and righteous revenge. Dan leaned back in his chair and said, "So let me get this straight. This guy has a video from college, he's been blackmailing your wife for a year, and now he wants a job." "Pretty much," I said. Rachel was sitting beside me, quiet, flipping through the folder of documents she'd collected. She looked like she hadn't slept. Probably because she hadn't. Dan raised an eyebrow. "And you've got emails, bank transfers, threats, all in writing?" We nodded. He smiled. Not big, just that slow, lawyerly gotcha kind of smile. "Good." Over the next hour, Dan walked us through the options. Option 1, do nothing. Wait it out. Risk Evan sending the video, taking the hit. Option 2, go to the police. File charges for extortion, harassment, digital blackmail. Option 3, hit back first. Preemptively submit a complaint. Contact Evan directly, not as ourselves, but through Dan. Let him know we're not just scared and guilty. We're watching. We chose option 3. Dan drafted a letter that same day, direct, professional, and laced with enough legal fire to make Evan's hairline retreat even faster. It said, essentially, "You are being formally notified that your behavior constitutes criminal extortion under Ohio law. We have preserved evidence of your attempts to coerce financial and professional favors through threats and intimidation. Any further communication will be interpreted as continued criminal activity and forwarded to the appropriate authorities." And here was the kicker. Dan CC'd a county prosecutor. He didn't have to yet, but just seeing that name on the email would rattle Evan hard enough to maybe rethink his next move. We hit send. And then we waited. For 3 hours, nothing. Then, just before midnight, an email came through. No subject line. No body. Just a link. It led to a private Dropbox folder. Inside, one video. Timestamped. Same night I remembered. Same couch. Same awful moment. But it ended early. Just 36 seconds long. Then, a second file. A full apology. Written by Evan. Admitting he recorded it. That he kept it. That he used it to manipulate and threaten. That he was deleting all copies. That he would not contact us again. It wasn't legally binding. But it was a confession. Dan printed it, downloaded the video, backed up the originals, and turned to us. He blinked, he said. "Now we own the narrative." For the first time in months, I exhaled. The video was back in our hands. And Evan Carr? Was finally out of our lives? Or so we thought. We thought it was over. We had the video. The confession. Evan was quiet. Rachel and I were talking again, honestly this time, no more games, no more half-truths. It felt like we could finally exhale. But you don't go through something like this and just go back to normal. Not really. For a week, we walked around the house like strangers trying to remember where everything used to go. We still talked. Still laughed sometimes. But there was this weight in the air like we both knew something had to give. Then one night, Rachel sat down across from me at the kitchen table and said, "I think we should tell the truth." I froze. She wasn't talking about the police. Or Evan. Or Dan the lawyer. She meant everyone. Her voice was steady, like she'd already made peace with it. "If we're going to move forward, we have to stop hiding. You can't keep living like you're a bad person for something you didn't even fully understand at the time. And I can't keep being the one who holds it all together in the dark." I didn't say anything right away. Just listened. She went on. "Let's own it. The mistakes. The fallout. All of it. Because if we don't, someone else will. And I'd rather it come from us." So we did something that scared the hell out of me. We wrote it all out. Every detail, not the video itself, but the context. The college party. The mistake. The silence. The blackmail. The lies we told each other. The emotional toll. Everything Evan tried to pull. Everything we almost lost. Rachel wrote most of it. She's better with words when the truth's heavy. We posted it anonymously at first, a long-form blog. Just to see what would happen. But Dan encouraged us to attach our names. And when we did, it spread. Not viral. Not scandalous. Just honest. Real. People read it. Some judged. Some forgave. Some shared stories of their own, nights they regretted, secrets they held onto too long, people they hurt and never got to apologize to. And the craziest thing? Lexi reached out. She found the post. She sent a message. Said she remembered that night. Said she knew what Evan had done, what he almost did. And then she said, "Thank you for not pretending it didn't happen. That means more than you know." That broke me. Not in a bad way, just cracked something open I didn't realize I was still holding on to. Rachel cried when she read it. I did too. For the first time, it didn't feel like we were being punished for the past. It felt like we were finally facing it. Out loud. Together. No more lies. No more hiding. No more power in someone else's hands. It's been 6 months since we told the truth. No scandal. No front page fallout. A few awkward texts from extended family, a few uncomfortable stares at work, but that was it. Turns out, when you admit your mistakes before anyone can weaponize them, you take most of the ammo out of their hands. I didn't lose my job. I didn't lose my friends. And somehow I didn't lose her. Rachel and I still have tough days. Some nights we sit in silence and feel the weight of everything we've been through side by side. Not always saying much. Just being there. Sometimes that's enough. Other days it's lighter. We cook again. We go for walks. We even laugh about the weirdness of it all, like the fact that it started with an envelope left on the kitchen counter. The irony still gets me. A simple bank statement turned into blackmail, confessions, confrontation, and almost divorce, and a reckoning with who I used to be. All from a stupid slip of paper. But maybe it wasn't stupid. Maybe it was necessary. Because here's the thing, the people we were before all of this? They weren't built to survive what we went through. But who we are now? We've been through the fire. We faced the ugliest parts of ourselves and of each other. And somehow we're still here. I don't think there's a clean moral to this story. I wish I could wrap it in a bow and say, just tell the truth and everything will be fine. But the truth? The truth costs. It costs your comfort, your pride, your illusions. But what it gives you back, if you're lucky, is something imperishable. Something stronger than the lie you were living. For me and Rachel, it gave us a second chance. Not to go back to who we were, but to become something better. Together.